Listen, how many sides has a circle? Answer 2. Inside and outside, right?
Right.
Hi everybody. I'm doing this quite late at night. I'm quite poorly, so I was trying to sleep and I couldn't sleep. I've got a sore throat and I was just coughing and I felt like I was just keeping my wife awake, so I've just come downstairs and I thought I could do something useful while I try and make myself more tired as well. So I'll do some reading in a minute. But in the meantime, I thought it would be nice to do a video just commemorating 360 subscribers. So it's not necessarily a round number like the hundreds, like 400, 300, 500, whatever, because we all think in decimals. But 360 is an interesting number because I thought it might be nice to use the 360 subscribers number to go back to the beginning and have a look at the first couple of videos I did, or more importantly, the second video I did when I tried to make a booktube channel, and just talk in general about what I've learned and how much I've enjoyed it, and how much I've enjoyed the connections I've made and some of the comments I've got in the videos and that kind of stuff. So when I turned it from a strictly music one to mostly books with a couple of music things, I did a cartoonist one first because that's my biggest collection really. So I collect books, and I read a lot of science fiction and fantasy, and I'm reading more horror now, but definitely a lot of science fiction and fantasy. So that's a big part of my collection. But the collection that's a little bit more eclectic and different and focused and surprising, if you know what I mean, like as in when I see something, it's more surprising I've seen it, rather than obviously there's science fiction and fantasy everywhere, is the cartoonist collection. And I've got about 130 books in that collection. So I did a video, top 10 cartoonists, and that was the first video I did where I wanted to make this new direction on the channel. So when I approached it, I was completely new to it. I don't use a particularly sophisticated program. I still don't. And I thought it might be nice for me to do, like, because I'm a very poor but interested budding cartoonist myself. I mean, I don't do it very often, and I used to do it a lot more when I was younger. But I thought, well, it would be nice if I did a little cartoonist style picture for each video. That was my idea at the beginning. So those first few videos have that as like a title page. But after a while, I kind of got a little bit bored of that. I didn't think it was very good. And I didn't really think it looked that good either, to be fair. But that's one of the ways that sort of characterises those early videos. It's got that cartoonist thing at the beginning. And it was quite a while away before I got my kind of style of the way that my videos work. So I'll talk about that in a minute. But the top 10 cartoonist ones video, pleased with the people I mentioned and how I talked about it in the books I showed up, because they are genuinely my top 10 cartoonists, and I love those cartoonists to death, and I always want to collect their stuff. And I think I've got everything that Gary Larson's done and everything that Dan Pararo's done. I'm trying to get everything Charles Adams has done, but they're so rare, it's really hard to get them all. So I've still got stuff to get for Charles Adams, and I've got almost everything that Kane Wilson's done. So that video is still there. It was 2 and a bit years ago. So I've been doing focusing on booktube on this YouTube channel for just over 2 years. So it was like 2nd of June or something, that one was. And then the second one I did was 5 recommended science fiction books. And I thought it'd be interesting to talk about those again, because 2 of them I've talked about a lot on my channel, and the others I haven't talked about as much. I thought it'd be interesting to think about how I feel about them now. So the 2 books I've talked about a fair amount. I mean, I've talked about them a lot in overview videos, and like the video I did on science fiction tropes and those kind of things. So not a massive surprise that I've started with those. But Claire North Touch, still one of my favourite books. I absolutely love this book so much. And it was really cool that Adrian Adrian Tchaikovsky recently talked about this on a video that was like an interview with Midi Death Cult, so it was really cool he mentioned this. And I think he plays D&D with Claire North, so I think he knows her personally. But I think she's fantastic, and I'm about to do a video on Claire North, so I'll be talking about 5 of her books. But this is my favourite. So the most famous one is The First 15 Lives of Harry August, which is amazing. But this is my favourite. I think it's so good. And I will read it again, but it still stays in my memory. I've got really vivid memories of what happens, why it's so good, and how it felt reading it, which is cool. I don't always get that. So, Touch by Claire North was mentioned in that video, and I still love it. Still love Claire North. I'm very excited when she releases a new one. The last one she released, I didn't like as much as a lot of her others, but there's kind of 2 styles to what she puts out, which I'll talk about more in the Claire North video. And I prefer this kind of style more, but I'll talk about that in the Claire North video. So there's Touch. And then I talked about this one, which pretty much gets just favourable reviews on BookTube, YouTube. I just think it's so good. There's loads of reasons why it's good. And I thought it was interesting that Thomas at SFF 180 only gave it a 3 out of 5. So if you watch his video, he's very articulate and his points are really interesting. I think he was a bit harsh on the scientific elements to this, because I think Blake Crouch writes books that make a lot of sense. And if he hasn't gone, I mean, because Thomas said that he thought Andy Weir was a better version of Blake Crouch's writing, but I don't think they are the same kind of writing, to be fair. I think it's a different kind of thing. And if Blake Crouch included the scientific detail that Andy Weir does, I think it would get in the way of his pace and his style, and it would just jar a bit. So I don't actually think it's a fair criticism. I think, to be honest, I can't think of a criticism for this book, but if there was one, I don't think it's that. So I don't think the scientific detail has to be immense in this one, because I just don't think it fits. I don't think it's that important. It'd actually be worse, I think. So I think it's a strange comparison that he compared Blake Crouch to Andy Weir. I've only read 2 of Andy Weir's books. I'll get to that in a second, because one of the books in this 5 is an Andy Weir book. But I do think they're different. So this book I think is fantastic, and I haven't done a video just on this, but I've mentioned it a few times. But what I wanted to do was leave it until I'd read enough books by Blake Crouch that I was going to do a video on Blake Crouch. So that's why I haven't done one just on Dark Matter. So when I do that one, hopefully I can say more that might entice people to read it. But just for now, if you want to give it a go, it is so good. It's really fast. It's interesting. The characterization is brilliant. It's a fantastic story. And I just couldn't put it down. I loved every second of it. So, Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. Then there was The Humans by Matt Haig. So I mentioned this one in that video. I find this interesting because I think this is brilliant. I think it was a revelation to me, because it was the first book I'd read by him. And I'd only kind of had a vague sense of Matt Haig. I hadn't really heard that much about him. And I read it in a period where I was just rediscovering newer authors. So it was when I really got stuck into reading a lot. And it's really good. It's I think it's the best version of Matt Haig. So I've read 4 of his books now, and the other 3 I don't think are anywhere near as good. So I've read this one, and then I read The Last Family in England, which was all right, but it wasn't brilliant. It was all right. And then I read... You all right, Ralph? So, and anyway, enough about Ralph. Yeah, so I also read The Last Family in England. Yeah, it's all right. I also read The Radleys, which was a bit better, a bit of fun. But again, okay. I wouldn't have thought he was like best writer ever if I just read that. And the most recent one I read was Midnight Library. Midnight Library had a fantastic concept, and he's a good writer. I think it's a good book because of the writing, but it's also, I thought, quite predictable. So lots of people absolutely love it. But there are people that don't like it at all because of the self-help part of the book, and they don't like the fact that he does that. But he does write books that are just self-help books that are not necessarily story-based. So, you know, that's a big thing for Matt Haig. And Midnight Library did do well in creating a story around that kind of message, but I found it just a little bit of a predictable message. So I didn't find that as good. But this is really good. I'd recommend this to anybody. I think it's really good for all sorts of reasons. Really good writing. The plot's really good. The characters are really interesting. I love the central plot, but the big kind of selling point, I think, is right at the end. He does this thing where there's about 4 pages of commentary on life and about how to make your life have value and like a guide for good living, and it's fantastic. That bit of that book is incredible. So and you know, it's quite emotional reading it, that bit. So I think this is absolute a success, but I don't really think the other 3 books I've read by him are anywhere near as good. So I don't know if you guys feel the same about Matt Haig, or you haven't read this and you've just read Midnight Library or something, or if you've got any other opinions about him. I'm definitely going to read one more because I've got How to Stop Time, and I'm reading that in this very long preparation I've got for the next time travel book. I'm spending ages getting around to doing those, so I've read a couple for that video, but I've got quite a lot to read for that. But one of them is How to Stop Time by Matt Haig, so I'm going to read that one, but that might end up being the last one I read by him. I'm not sure. I mean, he's going to release more, isn't he? So I might read some more recent ones, but this is miles better than the other ones, I think. And then there's this book. So I mentioned this book in that video, Vicious, by V.E. Schwab, and I'd like to read more of her. So I'm about to read the sequel to this, like 2 years later, and I've forgotten a lot of the details in this, but I know it's really good, and I know it's 2 super villains that are kind of set up at the beginning when they discover their powers, and then it's like this big build-up with some flashbacks and some present-day stuff that results in a kind of a confrontation at the end. That's kind of the gist of the book, and it's really, really good. It's got great characters in it. You are fully immersed in the characters and what's happening with them, even though, from what I remember, I don't think anybody in the book is particularly likable. So I think that's really good. There's another book like that, The Demolished Man, which I'd like to do a video on at some point, but that's another book that's really good despite not having any likable characters. So I found that wasn't the case for this. But when I read the sequel, Vengeful, pretty sure it's called Vengeful, I might like one of the characters, I don't know, because one of the booktubers I watch, she's always saying that it's got a favourite villain in that book. So whether or not that's because they're likeable or just because they're a really good character, I don't know. But I'm going to read the sequel to this soon. This is a really good book, so I don't think my opinion of that's going to change. But again, I haven't read it since I read it about 2.5 years ago. But yeah, if you haven't read this, definitely recommend it like I did before. And then the 5th book I did in that video, I can't find it. I might have put it up in a loft. And that was Artemis by Andy Weir. So that's a really funny one for me because it was the first Andy Weir book I read, and I'd heard a lot about him, heard about The Martian, but at the time I didn't think it was worth reading The Martian because I'd seen the film. And Artemis, I really liked it, and I mentioned it in this video, recommending it. And then after I did the video, I discovered that everybody seems to hate that book. So I felt like a bit of a numpty. I was like, have I missed something here? And a lot of people criticise the way he's characterised the female main character and saying that he can't write as a woman. So I may have been the victim of not knowing that because of being a bloke and not realising that some of that was just not accurate or something. I'm not sure. I don't know, because if I feel like I should reread it again with those criticisms in mind. But maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should think, no, I enjoyed the book, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. Maybe you guys can tell me whether I was an absolute fool for liking Artemis. But yeah, I did like it enough to include it on those recommended books. I really, I really enjoyed it. I mean, Andy Weir's a really good writer, and because it was the first book I'd read by him, it could be that I was sold on his style. And like I said, I wasn't aware so much of the gender issue. I don't know, but then I read The Martian, which is amazing. It's much better, but it's an amazing book, and shocked me because I thought it would be an interesting read, but not particularly revelationary because I'd seen the film. But it really was, because it doesn't matter if you've seen the film. It's really funny, and actually it's really thrilling. So if you know what's going to happen, which you do because the film's very accurate, if you know what's going to happen, it doesn't matter. It still gets you going, and your heart's going beating faster when you're reading it. It's such a good writer. And I haven't read Project Hail Mary yet because it took me a while to want to buy it, because I wanted to buy other things. And then I was like, okay, I want to buy that now because it's hardback, so it's quite expensive. And I thought, yeah, I'm going to get that now with some tokens or whatever. And I haven't seen it in a shop since I wanted to buy it. And I've been looking in libraries and haven't seen it in my libraries since wanting to read it as well. So it's a bit frustrating because I'm sure I'll like Project Hail Mary. And I know MJ's doing a readathon group read thing on Project Hail Mary. So it'd be nice to get involved, but I haven't got a copy. I haven't got access to a copy, so I won't be joining in on that. But as soon as I can, I'll be reading that, because I'm sure it's going to be really good, because Andy Weir is a good writer. So, yeah, Artemis is a funny one that I feel a bit, not embarrassed, because if I was sincere, if I liked it, I liked it. But I do think, did I miss something? Was I unaware of how badly that side of that book was written? I don't know. But not everyone's going to feel the same. I mean, like I said, I felt differently about Dark Matter than Thomas from SFF 180. And, we're all looking at these books objectively. And, I'm about to read, hopefully, going to read Blood Meridian this month. And, I know that there's a regular booktuber that I watch who absolutely hates Cormac McCarthy. We're all subjective, and it's just one of those things. But yeah, Artemis, the fact that I included it in that video, new to doing this sort of thing, and then find out afterwards that everybody hates the book, it was just a really weird thing to experience, especially early on, because I was just thinking, am I going to just continuously produce videos that make me look like an idiot? but anyway, I cracked on anyway, and I've done, as I said, 2 years worth of videos, and I've got better at doing the editing, and I've had less editing to do. So when I did the first videos, there was like loads and loads of cuts and loads of mistakes and loads of ums and loads of silly points and just things that I needed to edit out. And there's less of that now, which is really good. So I know I'm getting better at that and getting a little bit slicker, not that slick, but a little bit slicker. And hopefully I'm finding interesting things to talk about. I quite liked, at the beginning, I was doing a lot of themed videos, and I quite like doing that, but that takes a while to build up the books to do that, so I haven't done as many of those as I wanted. And I've tried to sort of vary it up by doing bits of my collection and doing things like the Farscape one and stuff like that. I've done a trailer for the channel as well. It's weird, actually, because this video, I'm kind of going back, because it's 360 and all that, going back on the past and kind of reflecting on what I've done, which is going to sound a little bit like the trailer that I've made, which is going to probably appear at some point this month. And also, you could say that what I've just said about the books is a little bit of a deja vu thing as well, and I've been tagged in the deja vu tag, which is fantastic. Thanks, Ollie, for doing that. So I haven't done that video yet, but I know what I'm going to talk about. But I don't want to repeat myself, so I'm trying to find books that I can talk about that I haven't talked about yet. So I've almost got that sorted. And I'll be doing that soon. But thanks for tagging me, Ollie. So the deja vu thing is quite funny because this is a little bit deja vu, isn't it? So one thing that I like about, that I get excited about, and I really enjoy doing, and that is the way that my videos start. So when I know what the video is going to be about, I upload it onto my Google Drive, download it to go into the editing software, and then I look for a audio clip that I want to use as the intro to the video. And sometimes I've done a few audio clips that have made me laugh when I found them, and I thought, yeah, that'd be a good idea. the one that's just appeared, the video that's just appeared, is the video on animation books. And for that one, the audio clip is a little longer because I thought it'd be fun to do just a bunch of sound clips from Warner Brothers cartoons and Droopy and stuff like that. So that one's a little longer, but usually it's just like one sentence and then the theme starts, which is a Bemis track. So it's a track from my band. It's off the last album we did, and it's a song written by my son. So I quite like and enjoy and get excited about setting up that audio clip and then the theme and then starting the video. So that's something that's kind of developed and I've kind of refined into a style, hopefully. And then I just chat away like this. So I think if you look at the early videos, there's a lot. It took me a while to get to that point. So there's lots of videos where it's just the logo that I did create fairly early on this journey, doing these kind of videos, which was created by an ex-student of mine who's a really good digital artist. So she made that image of me reading a book or whatever. So that sometimes in the early videos is the start of the video without any sound. And then I realised when I did the Stephen King video, I realised I wanted to introduce each book with a sound clip, which I did on the Stephen King one, and that kind of set me up to do that from then on. So that was the moment when I decided to do the sound clip thing, and that's one of the favourite things I like doing on the videos. So, and as I've got more relaxed doing it, I've been a little bit more natural in the way I've talked on the video as well, which is cool. So, as I said, I didn't want to go on forever, but I really appreciate the connections I've made and the people that have chatted to me in private messages and on comments, and when I've been tagged a few times and that kind of stuff. It's really cool. So I do appreciate that. There's kind of like half a dozen booktubers in particular who have kind of spoken to me a lot, which is really cool. And there's loads that I absolutely love. There's loads of booktubers that I actually spend more time watching booktube now than normal TV, and I don't watch films as much because I'm sitting there watching YouTube, watching all these booktubers and reviews and that, which is really cool. But it's definitely become a big focus of my time. So there are loads and loads I really like. So yeah, thanks for any involvement you've had in the videos, and for the 360 subscribers, thank you for subscribing. If there's anything that you feel like I've mentioned briefly on my videos that you want me to talk about more, let me know. And please comment about the things I've mentioned in this video, or what you think of those 5 books I talked about, and any other things that kind of relate to that. And thanks for watching. I'm going to try and get rid of this sore throat. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Paint me a picture of what it's like to be you.